So, Sam, you went to and did the creative pairing.
I did. So got to spend a week in, I would say, sunny Cyprus with Dimitri, but it rained basically the entire time. So
Did it stop
there's that.
raining after you left, or
Yes, it's apparently lovely this week.
of course,
Yeah, we had thunderstorms and everything, and turns out Cyprus has no central heating anywhere because they're used to the heat.
it's usually warm, yeah.
So yeah, it was weirdly cold, but no, it was a good week. It was a good week. We got a lot done, and we did get a little bit of sun at some point, and I got to eat way more calamari than I think I ever have in my life. Can't complain about that. So yeah, the program itself. So I think it's still very much in its infancy. So I was the second official person to do it, but the third person um, overall, I guess, to do it. And the general idea is kind of um, a way of getting you to do something that's outside of be assigned an issue, work through the issue, put it through a review, verify it, go through the normal steps kind of thing, where you kind of you get blinkered a little bit as to this is the one thing that I'm working on. I'm going to work through this, and then next month I get assigned more things, and I work through them. So you could kind of come back at a more like a higher level and look at the stage or GitLab itself as a whole and figure out, okay, well, this isn't really the best. How do we fix this? Like, what's some boring solutions in a way that we can put together to fix the experience, make it a little bit nicer, and not have to go through the whole usual process of planning and going through product and then going through UX and then going through front and back end and all of that sort of stuff.
So, how did it work? You arrived and you knew what you were going to be looking at, or did you just chat with DZ about it? Or
It was very freeform. I have a feeling that's because it's early in the program and there's not really a defined structure to it. But he already had an issue he'd created with the create a pairing tag. So I think if you look for issues with that tag, there'll probably be some more going forward. But we also looked at the sort of security dashboardy type thing as a whole to see one what it does, why you would use it, and kind of the issues that you would have with it using it day to day, sort of thing. And we found from that one of the biggest issues is false positives. You get a lot, mainly with container scanning, of things that maybe they are vulnerabilities, but they're in a package that you have literally no control over. So there's nothing you can do about it. And the sort of we can dismiss vulnerabilities, so we can say, look, I don't care about this. But going through them and clicking on it, clicking on the button to add a comment, typing out this is a false positive, clicking dismiss, and then moving on to the next one and the next one and the next one. It takes a long time. And on one of the example projects Dimitri had, I think there was like 130 like false positives that cropped up, and that every vulnerability was a false positive because he'd set up the project and done nothing on it. So what we did was we created a dismiss all button, and you literally it works kind of like on Gmail. So you click the little checkbox in the header of the table. It selects everything that's on that page, and you can just dismiss all of them and give them a reason that you're dismissing them, and go from there. And it obviously speeds up the thing like by 20 times faster or whatever. And there was actually an issue that he'd had open for, I think it was 7 months or something like that, or 7 weeks. It was one of the two. It was a long time either way. And the point was it took that long to get picked up and go through the usual processes because other things were taking precedence. But really it took me like an hour to code it. So why weren't we just fixing it and adding it in? Like, I mean, in the long run, it took a lot longer than an hour because I spoke to Andy quite a bit to get UX on it because what I created was hideous. But, you know, I'd created something, sent it to Andy, and then I was like, I've made this awful thing. How do I make it look nice? And that got things moving a lot quicker. So I guess that's kind of goes back to the point of get things moving quicker and try and get back in, even in some small way, to the roots of GitLab, of where it started as, you know, you get in, you move quickly, and it's an open source project at the end of the day. And we can't really be expecting contributors to come from wherever and go, oh, well, this thing needs fixing. I'll just jump in and make sure I create an issue with all the correct labels. And, you know, we want to still have people be able to jump on something, go, this needs fixing. I'm going to fix it. It's done. It's fixed. Here's a merge request.
So how did you, how were you spending your time over that week? Was it very different to the normal sort of flow for you?
In a way, yeah. So we were working together in a co-working space. It was different every day, really, but we were on the earlier days. We were looking through GitLab and trying to work out, you know, where we were what we were gonna do, what we were gonna work on. And I'd set up an instance of GitLab myself on a DigitalOcean box to get used to that process. And then when I was actually working on the issue and writing the code and all that sort of stuff, I was just doing that as normal, as I would at home, kind of thing. Dimitri was just sat next to me doing his own thing. But when we were looking for things to do, and like I could always turn to him and say, you know, I'm struggling getting this through. Like we had obviously a little bit of pushback from UX saying like, well, it's great that you've done this and you've sent me this, but we have a process for this. And that was when I had to turn to Dimitri and say like, okay, look, this is happening. I could explain it, but it probably sounds more authoritative coming from you to say, look, this is the point of the creator pairing program, to kind of get around these processes a little bit and speed things along. And massive props to Andy for standing his ground initially until he was almost officially told, no, don't worry, this is fine. And then he was super helpful from I say from there on. He was helpful from the beginning, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it was kind of independent working with Dimitri, sort of sat with you when you needed him. And in other parts, we were both working together on things, and he showed me a lot about setting up auto DevOps on like my own instance, which is something I've never done. And
I need to do that on mine, so I might pick your brains about that one day.
Exactly. Like, I think it's something that every engineer at GitLab, or maybe even every employee at GitLab, should do, just so they know more what the product is, because the product isn't GitLab.com. The product is GitLab. You know, and setting it up myself and having my own instance of it was totally different to running just running things on GitLab on GitLab.com, where everything's set up for you and you don't need to worry about that. So yeah, we got design.gitlab.com running through the auto DevOps pipeline, which was really nice.
This is on your DigitalOcean instance, was it?
Yes. So my own DigitalOcean instance. I even set up Kubernetes and everything to run boxes and all that. I don't know what Kubernetes is, to be totally honest with you.
Was that running on DigitalOcean or?
No, that was on Google Cloud. Yeah. That was the bit that took me the longest to set up, to be honest. It was weird that I was finding more issues with Google Cloud than I was with GitLab, which is maybe a good sign. That someone who has no idea what they're doing can still set up GitLab and just only struggles with the Google part.
I think that's A resounding success.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
true.
if Google is struggling, then great. Like, they've got a much bigger engineering and UX team than we do. So yeah, that was kind of the gist of it. And there was a couple other. I mean, if you've got the document open, I don't think I can share that generally for people watching on the recording, but there's issues with self-hosted section where I literally every time I came across something that was a bit weird, I wrote it down. So you can go through the whole setup up to. In fact, I've stopped it mid-sentence. Yeah, okay. I'll put an ellipsis there, then it's more mysterious. But yeah, and then at the bottom we've got all the merge requests that we created from there. So bits like I'd gone through the documentation to set up security reports, and there was a part that said, "Yeah, just do this and everything's fine," and it wasn't. So, like, rather than me figure out the right way to do it and change the documentation and have this incorrect documentation there for a while, we just created a merge request to just remove the misleading part from the documentation. I've since closed that because it turns out I just misunderstood the documentation. But the point is, we were finding things that, the customers would come across, and a lot of the time would just go, "Oh, well, it's probably me that's doing this wrong," rather than, and then not raising an issue about it or anything. So yeah. It was intense in a way, but it was also liberating in a way that I was doing a lot more coding and a lot less red tape stuff, which was nice. Yeah, I also realized we do spend a lot more time writing tests than writing the code that we're testing.
Absolutely. I was pairing recently, and writing the tests was the least productive part by a wide margin.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's maybe a discussion for another time.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. But yeah, I was slightly hesitant to write tests from the beginning because I wasn't sure what the UX would finally be. And I'm kind of glad I did that because the UX totally changed and I would have had to have rewritten all the tests. So my process was hack it together, put it up so that UX could see, say, I realize this is ugly and not very good. How do I make it good? And then spoke with Andy and discussed it with him as to what I could do quickly, I guess, and as to what compromises we could make on a nice UI, and then implemented it, wrote the tests, and put it in for review. Now it's still in for review at the moment. It's in maintainer review, but it's gone through a lot quicker than any other deliverable would have done. I mean, if this was a proper deliverable, it would have arguably taken me the majority of the month to do it and get it in for review and everything. Whereas we did that alongside other things in 4 days. So
that's pretty amazing.
But it really did highlight that when you break down the time you spend on things, the amount of time we spend actually writing code and fixing things is relatively small.
So, of the whole experience, would you recommend it, or would you say there's something you've got to go in with this particular attitude, or anything like that? Any advice?
I would totally recommend it, 100%. And I think the more people do it, the more as a company we'll have So I learned a lot from it, and the more people do it and the more people learn for it, the more then people can then teach other people that, sometimes it is right to just fix something and put it in. Like, the process is great. The process works brilliant, but it's not always the correct path, if that makes sense. Like, we can always iterate on something if it's not perfect, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. But yeah, go if you do go into this, go into it with an open mind. It's going to be a fair amount of work, but it's going to be work that, for me, that's the work I enjoy doing. The work I don't enjoy doing as much is the, discussing things over issues and blah blah blah. Not that we shouldn't do that. We should. We totally should. But it was really nice to spend a week writing code. Like that's what I enjoy. That's what I like doing. So yeah, I think it's something that it's a great. It was a great lesson to learn, kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm not coming away from it going, well, this is what we should do all of the time. Like, we should completely abandon the process and never do that. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But, sometimes there is a right time to do this.
Cool. Well, thanks for telling me all about it.
Well, thanks for prompting this call, because I would have totally just kept silent otherwise.
No, I can't believe that. On that note, I'm going to stop the recording.